Welcome everybody to our Sunday morning Truth Talk. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy healer and energy coach, and I'm going to be talking about truth with you here, not as in my truth is the only truth, but illuminating greater contexts of what is going on in our lives, what these energies are that are around us, and how we can better deal with them. Today, we're going to do the second part of high vibe nutrition. We had a lot of questions last time that we didn't get to cover in our hour, and so we're going to talk about what some of these principles of high vibe nutrition are, and go into the tips and tricks, but primarily here for you to answer your questions. All right. So one more thing here before we get started straight into part 2 of High Vibe Nutrition. Just some reminders from last week's Truth Talk. When we look at nutrition, we look at what something can provide to us, how it can support us in whatever it is that we're doing. So if we want to be a high performance athlete, for instance, then we need obviously other things than if we need to recover from a disease, or if we want to do sort of a day work at the office, or if we are under certain conditions. For instance, if you're a woman, you're going through your cycle, or you're being pregnant, all these things need to be put into account. I want to really put this into the foreground here for you to understand that when we're talking about the things that affect our energy, that affect our vibes, that it most and foremost depends on what we want, what we need. All right. So the big thing that I would like you guys to tune into here, as opposed to what is right, what is wrong, what is dark, what is light, what is good, what is bad, all right, is to ask questions more based on what is good for me. How can this support me? How is this beneficial for me? How does this support what I want at this very moment? All right, and not based on what is right or wrong. I see this too much, guys. People trying to be good, especially if you're younger and you're learning all this, you're educating yourself, whether it be diet. So diet is just one part of high vibe nutrition, or energies, how to not to absorb energies from other people. And there's a lot of black and white thinking with this. This is very, very dangerous, guys, because when you go into this absolutism of everything, okay, you're directly tuning into your ego's binary, oh, this is good or this is bad, judgment of things. And the moment you are hooked onto your judgment, your inner judgment, okay, this is good, this is bad, this is evil, this is spiritual, however, these dualisms in you, how they communicate. I need you to understand that that's the moment when you can no longer differentiate if something is actually good for you. Why am I saying this? Because for you to find out what is the right thing, say this is what we all want, right? We want to have a good decision making. We want to make good decisions. We want to make decisions that are supporting for us and hopefully also for the greater good for other people. Then we need to feel into what is needed at the moment. And this is the big thing here in regards to our entire collective and these collective energies right now, guys. This isn't about golden times or the end of the world, or the people all going dark, or everything is getting worse. This is about what this next evolutionary stage here for us as humans will bring. And depending on that, we need to look at what we need as humans. And looking at high vibe nutrition really brings all this together, because the new thing here that is coming in, this new paradigm, as I call it, has to do with us being able to evaluate what is the right thing for us. So the moment you are hooked onto your own judgment, guys, that's the moment when your ego's fear of making mistakes jumps in. And that's when we resort to our inner dualisms, when we resort to this black and white thinking, to this inner separation. And I want to take a moment here to say hi to you guys. I see you on Instagram. I see you on Facebook. Yay. I'm all thrilled that the multicast is working out. It's so good to have you guys here. Yes, I see some old friends. It's wonderful. And yes, you can join in and ask live questions. But in order to handle this, and also the questions that I have received up front, so many of you have either texted or Skyped them to me or used the link, the anonymous link to send in questions. It's easier for me to sort this. But yes, I see Pennsylvania, I see Texas, I see Trinidad, I see you guys. All right, so I'm very thrilled. So you can send me a few hearts here for me to know how long our delay is, so I understand this better. Looks like we have no delay. Okay, this is really, really cool. Yes, I see Chicago. I see Germany. So good to see you. All right, so let's do a very, very quick review of these 12 principles of high vibe nutrition that I talked about last Sunday. And some of these things may have been surprising for you, and some of these things are not really new information. So remember, this isn't about giving you the rights and the wrongs. This is about allowing you to go into a higher vibrational interaction with yourself, and as a result of that, becoming able to make better decisions. This isn't about another this isn't good for my vibe, so I shouldn't be eating this, or I shouldn't be doing this. This will all overload you and hook you into your ego's judgment. This is counterproductive, all right? So this transformation that I'm talking about, this new paradigm that is coming in, has to do with us being able to evaluate what is good for us, what is good for our energy, what is good for our emotions, what is good for our body, obviously, at any given time. And that requires us to have different ways of looking at things. All right, we can no longer just look at things from the right or wrong perspective. All right, and these 12 principles of high vibe nutrition that I went through last Sunday, so please resort to the video, High Vibe Nutrition Part 1. Drink lots of water, eat, if you can, unprocessed, natural foods, preferably organic, preferably local, preferably seasonal. Those are all things that most of you know. Ingest as much raw fruits and vegetables as you can for the reasons of taking advantage of their power, their natural power. Avoid contaminants, obviously, food additives and household toxins. They all compound, they add up in you. And so you may develop sensitivities or things suddenly that cannot really be traced back to one individual thing. Align to quality rather than quantity. So this whole calorie counting and portion control, again, is not actually productive for your higher vibratory lifestyle. Reduce meat consumption, or go vegetarian. I'm not a big fan of vegan diet, to be honest with you. It's a bit too extreme. From an energetic point of view, most empaths, energetically sensitives, they tend to stay away from meats over time. Fish doesn't have that effect on our energy as much, but fish has an issue with contamination as well. Support your system with essential oils. Don't be afraid of fats, guys. Learn the difference between macro and micronutrients, and understand that you need more than just so and so many carbs and so many grams of fat and protein a day. That there's so much more to the biochemistry of it. All right, that a tiny little spoonful of something, those superfoods that you see everywhere, they can make a huge difference in how most of the other macronutrients are being metabolized in you, and also how it can be converted into energy. Let's not forget that when we talk about high vibes, we're talking about energy, and not just the physical energy, the energeticness that we have, but also how things can be translated into your attitude, into your lovingness, into your motivation, into your intentiveness. All right. Number 8, if you want to take supplements, do supplements that are whole food based, that come from the actual food, simply because no matter how much science tries to pretend they know everything, they don't. So the power of nature is much more miraculous as science tries to make it look. And we don't really know what is in all these compounds that make certain foods, certain plants so extremely healing or uplifting. All right, so supplements coming from whole foods, they harness the power of nature, and therefore obviously there's qualitative differences there as well, but this is my tip for you. Align your food and align to your food and the preparation process. Make this a conscious process, whether it's buying your foods, preparing your foods, and even, things such as setting the table. Align all that. Make food something that is instrumental and vital for you. Okay, it's not just something that we should do on the go or in the car or while we're doing other things like watching TV and so forth. It de-sanctifies it, and there's something so sacred about eating. Okay, so this part of nutrition, all right, that you really want to do this in a more conscious way. Anyone who spends more time with their food, with cooking, with preparation, perhaps even raising, but growing your own vegetables, develops a healthier connection with their food, and therefore also a healthier connection with their own body. When it comes to exercise, make sure that it's moderate, that you don't go into extremes. So that's something that also applies to detox and some of these things that many of you are aware of. Okay, make sure that you don't go into extremes. And number 11, sleep enough, exercise, meditate, all so that it is supportive, not from a performance-based perspective, and include self-clearing. And here is often where nature itself comes in. Use the clearing properties of nature. And then principle number 12, practice self-love and kindness, starting in your thoughts, in your attitudes, in your sentiments, and then of course in your actions. And today I wanted to go just one step further here in regards to how we can integrate this into a more high vibe lifestyle. But I want to honor the questions that came in, all right? And some of you guys are informing me that Instagram cuts out a bit. It looks fine on my end. There's nothing I can do about this. Instagram, sorry for this. I'm not sure about the YouTube feed right now, to be honest with you. It all looks fine from my end, okay? So we're going to have to deal with what we have. If Facebook right now is the only stable stream, then I'm going to go with this, guys. So some of the questions that I've received here last week have to do with specifics, obviously, of nutrition, all right? Yes, Paul, blessing the food is a huge thing. I mentioned this last week. The energy of our food gets drastically increased through this awareness making and through this blessing. We don't have to be religious in the sense. We can bless nature, for having brought forward these products that we are eating that are supporting us. If you have kids, one of the things that have really shown to me how much people nowadays are disconnected from the foods is the wastefulness that we have with certain foods. And I've always raised my kids with the awareness how long it actually takes for one strawberry to grow or for one carrot to grow. And to have more awareness about this, what it actually takes for nature to produce things, even if it's industrially grown. All right, there's a lot of effort here, that a lot of energy that goes into growing, into producing the produce, that we can honor this by blessing our food and say, okay, thank you sunshine, thank you water, thank you soil, for bringing these products forward, and to have this awareness that these are not just things that come out of a factory. All right, so here you can see the attitude shift is actually the more important aspect, rather than whether you buy the organic carrots or the non-organic ones. Obviously, for us, the less contaminants, and also the way produce is being produced, we covered this last time, can increase the nutrient content, and therefore they become a higher vibe for us. All right, but the most important part here is to look at the actual life force that is being transferred from a food to you. And this has always helped me personally to make this discernment when it comes to foods, what is actually good for me. Besides the fact, of course, that I've studied some of the nutraceuticals in foods, and so you don't actually have to know all this. I find that Googling foods and what is the right food for this, or what is the right food for this, or is this good for me, produces a lot of mental overlay, and doesn't actually help for people to really tune into their foods, because of the mentioned individuality with it. So we have to really tune into our inner discernment in regards to foods, and that depends on how we ask for it. Okay, so when you want to Google things, I would strongly promote or recommend that you guys do research, but don't ask Google questions such as, is this good for me, or is this bad, or what is the best. All right, because you are tuning into all these articles that are somehow biased, that are somehow with agenda. You don't know anymore. You get a flood of information that's based on something, and you don't know what the source of that is. So this is a big, big shift that we all need to make here, especially in this sort of time where information is affluently available, but the truth of the information is no longer visible for us. So this has to come from within ourselves. Yes. Okay, so we have live questions, and I have questions here that were sent in. I want to address a live question here. My opinion about keto diet. Okay, my general opinion in regards to diet is that it is counterproductive. All right, so no matter what the purpose of the diet is, but that's something you always need to look at anyway. You need to look at what is this kind of diet for. Over the past 35 years, I've gone through so many studying so many different diets, that my overall verdict is the right diet is the diet that is right for you. Okay, so this is why I'm trying to teach you the principles of developing your own diet. Okay, the keto diet is something that works in moderation. It works on certain levels, but when you live your life according to this diet, whatever it is, then you cannot really put your needs in the moment into account. Okay, and dieting altogether, be it for weight management, be it for health management, or for performance, always creates mental overlay. It always creates things in people that distracts and disconnects them from their personal needs. Okay, there are some aspects of the keto diet that are good for us, and you'll see here in these overall recommendations that I came up for you guys to discern what a good diet is for you. or how you can compose this yourself, that elements of that are in there. But in general, if you are not a nutritionist, you don't actually know what you're doing to your metabolism, all right? And keto diet is one of those, just like the Atkins diet back in the 70s, where you deprive, or where you can run into depriving your system of certain nutrients, and that's always dangerous. It's the same with veganism, guys. Please don't ask me about veganism. From an energy healing point of view, veganism is not the best diet, but the principles of veganism are good. All right, so it's this the rigidity of it, the rigid trying to follow a certain diet, that is counterproductive. All right, so I hope that this is coming across. I don't have a particular opinion about keto diet or veganism, except for that it doesn't work for me. Okay, I've never even tried to be a vegan. I was a natural vegetarian. I never really liked meat. All right, so it was easy for me. I like fish, so I eat fish maybe once a week whenever I feel like it, all right, and it makes me feel good, all right, so I don't have a problem with this in general. I hope this answered your question, Heather. There are some other questions that I received here that I want to address real quick. Foods that help us to detox, because I mentioned last time that we can use foods for detoxing. It's mostly all the superfoods that are being or that are helping our system to detox from something, but it depends on what it is that you want to detox from. See, if you have an inflammation in your body, you want to resort to maybe garlic and oregano oil. If you have respiratory issues with mucus and so forth, you want to use foods that help with lowering the mucus or resolving the mucus. All right, if you have issues with digestion, all right, you need to look at foods that help to increase the overall peristaltic, the overall movement, and to flush out some of the things that have gotten stuck in your guts. All right, if you have a yeast infection, then other foods becoming detox, then you shouldn't really eating say citrus and so forth that are very detoxing under normal conditions. So it's very difficult to say this in general, and this is the kind of detox that I suggest to people, is if you don't have a particular condition, all right, if you're just sort of doing detox for your maintenance, all right, then well, let's start with like everyday sort of detoxing agents, okay, that you can integrate into your day. The easiest way to motivate your body to naturally detox is to put a few drops of lemon into your water in the morning. All right, so the first thing before you eat anything, lemon water, and you can add other things to it. There's, of course, all kinds of other superfoods, that you can add. But my suggestion is that you start your body slow. You start it with water and you add a little bit of lemon. I know many of you apple cider vinegar fans, okay, these things help too, but it's too much, okay? Just add a little lemon, just do the refilling of your water bottles, and just generally add some lemon in there, because that helps your liver to already get into this detoxing mode. It helps to excrete more. And then we'll get to this here in a little bit. There's also different times of the day where you want to do different things. There are times of the day where your body naturally wants to detox, and then there are times where your body wants to absorb nutrients, or then there are times where you need more carbohydrates, more carbs. All right, so that's why it's hard to say or to give these answers, because they may apply for you at 9 a.m. in the morning, but not at 6 p.m. in the evening, or they may apply to you when when you are okay physically, but when you have a cold coming on, then they don't actually apply. This actually leads me to another question, and that is, if it's actually healthy to get sick. And from an holistic point of view, it is. It is very healthy to once a year at least, if not twice a year, to come down with a cold or something, like sort of the bugs that are going around in your collective, simply because it keeps your immune system in a state of cross training. All right, it's not just that you form the antibodies that are needed to deal with all of the germs, the invisible stuff that's all around us, but it also really, motivates your immune system to work on higher levels, and therefore, it's like a muscle that needs to be exercised. All right. So when people never get sick because, say, they never exposed, or they are very germophobic, disinfect everything, then their immune system can go into a shock when they're actually getting confronted with the bigger kind of infection, and have a lot harder time to get past it. So it's very healthy, guys, to get sick once or twice a year with these common bugs, all right, these cold bugs that are going around. Okay, so don't think that because you are sort of a high vibe expert that it's shameful to get sick. This is not the case. Yeah. All right, so I'm glad, Heather, you could connect with the answer earlier in regards to keto. Then people have asked a lot about dairy products. So dairy and then the alternatives. Okay, here's the overall energetic view of this. Okay, so humans are the only mammal that actually drink the milk from other mammals, and this is, if you think about it this way, a bit weird, really, if you think about it, because I mean, this is the cow milk that is usually meant with dairy, is designed for, as a natural nutritional composition for a calf. All right. And while there's a lot of similarities here, there's also very distinct differences. So in general, the idea that we could live on something that is actually made for a different species is needs to be questioned. Okay, but this doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Obviously, there's a lot of animal products that are good for us, and I'm a big proponent of really sticking with some of the things that our ancestors and so forth have been eating, for centuries, millennia, because our bodies are adjusted to this. Okay, so our bodies can adjust to certain types of nutrients. The problem with milk is that it's going through a process, pasteurization and homogenization, that removes all the enzymes in the milk, in the cow milk, that actually supports our system to work it off, to work the parts off that are not good for us. And so at the end of the day, the kind of milk that we can buy in the supermarket, even the organic milk, it does no longer provide these components that are needed for a wholesome nutrition. Then there is the myth about calcium. And again here, guys, do not go by quantity, go by quality. Yes, there is calcium in milk, but it's not really being absorbed by our bodies, all right, because some of that has to do with the process, how it's made, but also some of it is just simply not designed for us. So the quantitative view, supports that there's a lot of calcium in milk, but the qualitative view shows you that a handful of almonds or a handful of brown rice produces a lot more calcium for your body, absorbable calcium for your body. So you got to be really careful, especially with the studies and so forth that are being sort of, I watch this, how this happens sort of in waves, okay? There's these waves, like there was one study that was shown about milk, and that milk is actually better suitable to hydrate us. And this is so out of context, guys, because yes, this is true. If you drink half a glass of milk, your body is able to retain water better. But does this mean now that you have to drink a gallon of milk every day? No. So the conclusion is the problem. All right, it's always the context, guys. Yeah. When it comes to cheeses and so forth, the butter, cream, my overall suggestion for you is obviously organic. There's so many problems with dairy nowadays. I mean, unless you have your cow, you love your cow, and you milk your cow, and you drink the milk how it comes from your cow, that is a total exception, and that is good milk. Okay, but it's food. It's actually not drink. Let's be clear on that. But organic, of course, is better. Local is better. And everything that is being made from that milk, as least processed as possible. All right. So again, here cheeses, for instance, a big eye opener for me when I moved to the United States. How the cheeses are being produced here. I come from a country where cheese is sort of almost holy, and it's like thousands of years of tradition how to make cheese. And the cheeses that we can buy in the supermarket have actually nothing to do with cheese. So I really want you to be aware that when you go with cheese, go with the cheeses that are done as a whole piece, that are done the traditional way. And yes, they're more expensive, but they are actually more nutritious. All right. Any other kind of dairy alternatives? So I was asked about coconut milk, rice milk, almond milk. Okay, my personal favorite is almond milk. I can tolerate rice milk, but I don't. It doesn't feel as nutritious. Coconut milk, also very beautiful. But some people don't like the coconut flavor to it. If you don't have access to raw milk and you're a real big dairy fan, okay, you can substitute with these milks. I'm not a big fan of soy milk, guys. There's other reasons for that, hormonal reasons primarily, but still better than dairy, okay. My suggestion is that you don't really get hooked to milk in the first place. So one thing that I teach parents for kids nutrition is don't get your kids into this habit of drinking fluids that have carbs and sugars in them in the first place. All right, teach your children to drink water for hydration. Okay, and then a juice or milk or anything else is food, and treat it like that. For us in my family, milk was something that was only used for desserts, really. Okay, so I don't mind, using milk or cream in desserts. I think this is very important that if you want to have a certain taste, that you use the original stuff. I use a lot of butter, organic if I can. Because those are things that our metabolisms have been used to. But I use them as, either dessert or some kind of, special dish, and not as something that I would use for everyday nutrition. Okay, so this is the part here where you can see this black and whiteness about things can sometimes sort of prevent us from seeing things. So coconut milk is definitely for those of you who like it, and especially if you live in South America, if you can get fresh coconut milk, guys, coconut water and so forth, extremely healthy. All right, but not for this day-to-day, drink a gallon of water a day. Okay, for that you should use water. Okay. Yes, Sean, you're making a really important point here. You can't starve your system. That's the thing. I think you referring to the diets that we talked about. The moment you starve your system of something that reduces the wholesomeness of things. Okay, you can do this maybe to recover from something temporarily for 2-3 weeks, but to live your life that way doesn't work. And there's another reason why diets don't work that I'll get to here in a second after I answered your questions. People have commented on fresh, what fresh in our groceries actually means, shelf life and so forth. Guys, okay, so here's the deal with the fruits and vegetables, and even if you do your own juices, if it sits there for more than 20 minutes, it's dead. Okay, so all these good things, all these like awesome nutrients that I talked about last time, they die. Most of them die after like about 20 minutes. Okay, freezing obviously and cooking and so forth kills most of those as well. Some can some are more heat resilient and so forth. But bottom line is, fresh is only what is fresh. Okay, so from an energetic point of view, you pick the apple from the tree. This is the freshest it can be. The grocery stores require a shelf life of 2 years for all processed products. So even your juices and so forth, they're supposed to last 2 years. So there's no real energetic high vibe value in those, other than that it produces a nice taste and a lot of carbs, okay, and that it tastes good, but it's food, okay. This is not hydration. Really remember this. What about fruits and vegetables? This is very, very concerning. I don't know if you know this, how things are being harvested, how they're usually being harvested in an extremely unripe green state, so that they can be shipped throughout the world after they've been harvested, and this that can take weeks till they actually get to your shelf. And the way they use do this so that they look good for us, that we want to buy them, is that they gas them. They use special gas components to make it to artificially ripe them. Okay, so you will have these bananas, for instance, a good example, or oranges. They're being picked when they're almost still green. And when you gas them, they change their color into orange. So they look ripe on the outside, but they're actually not mature on the inside. That's how you often, same with strawberries and a lot of other vegetables and fruits, that when you eat them, they just don't taste like anything. And that's because they haven't actually naturally matured yet. They are not ripe, okay? So this has a lot to do with how fruits and vegetables are being shipped and imported. That's where the local comes in, and the seasonal. All right, this is a way for you to make sure that it is, that it has riped in the time that it needs. Okay, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. Okay, you can call an orange fresh. And in the grocery store until 7 years, I think it is 7 years. Yeah, so fresh doesn't mean fresh in the sense that you understand it. Two more questions here that came in, and obviously in regards to gluten. So I've mentioned a few things about this last time already. It's the natural gluten is actually not what creates all the problems in your digestive system. It's the stuff that comes with it, the chemicals that are being used to extract the gluten out of the wheat, and this is where you develop the sensitivities. Really, they come actually through the contaminants, the components, the chemicals that are being used. Now, so this is again here a good example for this craze, and how our mind then goes into this dualism and sort of generally vilifies all gluten. All right, there's types of gluten that come in, like say rye flour, that are not necessary, you won't, that do not create the sensitivities in you, the bloating or the feeling like you have a brick in your stomach. Okay, that's because it comes with a lot more enzymes still. So there's a lot of things you can do, guys, to prevent these sensitivities that you've developed, and also to recover from them. I mean, there are things that you can recover from, you don't even know it, by simple dietary and nutritional changes, all the way to diabetes, and please, I'm not a medical professional, so if you do want to change your health conditions, then you always have to, of course, consult your medical your doctor or your naturopath, okay, to make sure that they know what you are doing, okay. So there's a lot more to all this info out there that meets the eye at first sight. That's really important that you see that, because your mind will take it as good or bad, and immediately you're locked in to certain things, and media and marketing and so forth takes advantage of that. These marketing strategies, for instance, calcium is good for your bones, okay? This is a true statement. Milk is not good for your bones, but marketing uses the statement that is fixed in our mind, calcium is good for your bones, and it will say the calcium that is found in milk is good for your bones. Is this true or not? Well, if you know that the calcium that comes through the milk can't actually be absorbed by you, it is not untrue, but the image that is produced in you, or the belief that is produced in you, namely that milk is good for your bones, that is untrue. You see how complex that is. They'll use things that are generally true, okay, such as can't come up with an example right now, but and they will make it sound like that this product has that, and it will not be untrue, because the products have to have it, or else you're not allowed to use it in advertising. But the way it comes in that food may not be accessible for you. All right, so this is the part here that requires us to discern. All right. Yes, and here's the deal, Sean. This is a very good point. In regards to diets, one more time, that diets can put you into this place of performance, and it increases all these black and white, these dualisms in us, okay. But the main thing is, when it comes to diets, all right, that what I said in the beginning, you have to find what's good for you, and you need to be more aware of what your body needs at a certain time. This can change with seasons. This can change with cycles, okay. So for women especially, who go through a monthly cycle, and this was also one of the questions that I've received here, you need to adjust your foods to your cycle, women out there, okay, especially if you're energetically sensitive. All right, the PMS time, for instance, is a time when you want to stay away from all sugars, and I mean, we've gone through some of the packaged and processed problems with those foods, okay. Everything that is not good for you is even worse for you, okay, when you're at the very end of your cycle. When you're in your cycle, during your moon cycle, your body goes into a natural detox, okay, and therefore, everything that has basically accumulated beforehand is being excreted anyway. And there it's best to go into more sort of detox supporting things, like, again, water is one of the main things. But you want to stay away from heavy foods altogether. All right. And then after your cycle, you need to ground yourself a little more again. All right. So then you may want to eat a few more root vegetables, or you want to, have things such as cheese that are very, very heavy, that can, put you, sort of pull you back into your body again. So grounding in regards to foods, guys, always means to make you be in your body more, okay. And then some foods is a very interesting for you guys empaths and energetically sensitives. They can help you to, say, not get too floaty. So those of you who are energetically sensitive, and we go a lot through this right now with all this high vibe collective energy, with all these energies that are speeding up around us, that we feel like we're losing contact, or we're getting nauseous, motion sick. Okay, many of you are actually getting motion sick because the energy work is speeding up so much, and your body is as a transceiver for this, all right, that you might actually need some heavier foods. You might actually need to eat a piece of chocolate or cheese or have a pizza just to ground yourself, okay, so that you can be back in balance. But the main thing with diets really is that, you know, the mental overlay with it, all right, the way you feel about yourself when you make diets for whatever the reason is, okay, and that is that you feel bad about yourself if you feel cravings, or if you cannot comply with your diet. That's why I don't actually recommend people to do diets altogether. I recommend people to develop certain guidelines for themselves that help them to recognize better what their bodies need when they are in certain conditions, and then develop routines that support this. All right, and this is something that I wanted to introduce to you today. This is sort of the second layer of this, all right, not just like what you buy and the awareness of what you put into your body, but also the awareness of when you need what, okay, and what you want to accomplish, what your intention is. If you're healing, if you're recovering from something, if you are trying to center more, if you're trying to develop a better connection with your body, if you're trying to look better, if you're trying to increase your overall radiance, okay? And this is really what I would like you to focus on more than any of these whatever do's and don'ts, all right? What makes me feel more radiant on the inside and on the outside, all right? What makes me feel so balanced and connected within, okay, that I can feel good about eating anything, and that I don't have to have this constant overlay in my head. Oh, I can only have one spoonful, and if I have two spoonful, oh, then I'm such a loser. And then you go into low vibes, and when you go into low vibes, guys, that's when you start relapsing. That's when you start, oh, now that I've already eaten half the chocolate bar, I might eat the whole thing, you know, now that I've already sort of bad today, you know, and then I'm going to work it off tomorrow. Okay, those are the things that you need to look at. Those are the things that are not good for you. That is low vibe, guys. Okay, high vibe is, I'm feeling a little shitty right now. What do I need? Did I drink enough water? That's always the first thing. Did I sleep enough? Well, maybe, you know, there's nothing you can fix with foods. Maybe you just simply have to sleep. Okay, what did I do yesterday? A lot of times we're dealing with energetic conditions, physical energetic conditions that are the consequence of the day from the day before. Okay, what does my body need? Did I have, a big party yesterday? Did I eat too many heavy foods? Did I drink too much alcohol? What does my body need? Okay, so you need lots of hydration. Okay, so partying, makes your body lose water, and you probably need a little bit of detox. Okay, then you go with lighter foods. You go with foods that have a lot of enzymes, a lot of life force in form of these micronutrients that support your body in its own ability to self-heal. Okay, if you are if you've, like, say you've recovered from a cold, and you couldn't really eat that well, and you've lost a little weight, or you feel a little sort of squeezy inside, you may want to have a really, really good, sort of a heavy meal, like a potato soup. This is sort of a compromise already, or pizza and so forth, to just ground you a little bit. Okay, so here are my overall recommendations for you that you can use to develop a better decision making for your high vibe nutrition, not just in regards to foods, okay? Because these, as we've learned already, that it all goes together. Intent and attitude and connection, all right, with what we ingest, okay, has a lot to do with what it does or what it can do for us, whether it's supportive, life supportive, whether it brings in life force and promotes the sort of the radiance of that, or whether it sucks it up, whether it requires more energy, say, for my body to deal with it than it produces. This is basically the balance that you want to look at, okay? But it's a bit more complex here. And I've put together like 10 recommendations that I have for you. Number one, everything in life is about pacing. Everything is about what do I need at a certain time. There's a time for everything, okay? And that's why it's very important for you to become more aware of what you need at this very moment. And of course, depending on your routines, if you're hungry now, it's 5 p.m., but, you're having a big dinner at 5:30 or 6, then you may not want to clog, your system with something that you eat right now. If you if you like fruits, for instance, that's also something a lot of people don't know. You always want to eat fruits on empty stomach. And, eating fruits with something else, like a big meal, for instance, makes fruits no longer supportive. They are now becoming an extra burden for your system, okay? So this is why it's so important to know how to pace things out. Sometimes you need to slow down, sometimes you need to speed things up a bit, but you need to know what the time is for you right now, okay? This is very, very important. This has to do also with the cycles that we go through. Then number two is the attitude and, of course, the intent. But it's all about, you becoming able to maintain your own vibrations, to maintain your own energy, and hopefully to go into a place with it where you can even produce more. Okay, so healing, for instance, is the attempt of raising your vibes. Strictly spoken, on technical level, the elevating our energy from a lower into a higher state relative to the state that it was before is called healing. This is how I see healing. So we all are these self-healers, and we need to be aware of that, okay? That it is ultimately in our responsibility, but also in our freedom to choose that. And that does not just apply to foods. So we have to have the right intention and the right attitude for it, and we need to be in touch with this. This has to do with with our inner connection. And this also applies with other people. That you might have friends that that is so cool to party with, but those are not the right people that you can have deep reflective conversations. Or you might have people that you can really trust, and you can really share intimate things with, and you can really connect with this person when you're with them, on just with them. But when there's a larger gatherings or whatever, then that person isn't really the one that can do this for you. It's the same with foods. It's the same with everything. Okay, so you really got to be aware that everything has to do with how this fits into what your current intent and what your current attitude is, and that needs to be communicated with yourself and others. All right, very, very important. Then number three is flow. All right, so everything has a flow, okay? Like our seasons do, the menstrual cycle does, success has a certain flow. Energies are in constant motion, all right? And we want to keep things in motion. Why is that? Because when things become too stagnant, all right, then their natural sort of self-renewing, self-healing ability slows down. Okay, if you become too rigid about any of the things that we've talked about, be it your diet, or be it your friendships, or be it your I don't even know, spiritual books or whatever, spiritual teachings, then you're running into danger to get out of the flow. Now, in the physical sense here, obviously this relates to hydration. Okay, so water as your fundamental nutrition, inside and outside, really provides this flow for you, okay? And that's why you want to keep everything in flow. You never want to stagnate. But does this mean that you can't, that you need to be, ADHD and jump around and try to? No, this doesn't mean that either, because that's not flow either. All right. So flow means is that you recognize that there's oscillations in your life. Okay, there's not ups and downs. Ups and downs are imbalances. We get to that here in a little bit. Flow means, that there are certain times that require certain things. And sorry guys, I think I just lost you on Instagram, so I'm going to focus on you here on Facebook. All right, so flow is very, very important for your energy, okay? Because that is what actually teaches you to respond rather than to react. If you get too rigid, if you get too stagnant, all right, you become inflexible. And if you're too floaty and too dippy, then you lose the groundedness, you lose your center, okay? The next is balance, all right? So yes, we have these balances that we talked about and that I mentioned, that can get jeopardized if there's not enough flow. But then there are other balances as well, the balance with your environment and the balance within yourself, okay? Balance within, for instance, and this is also one of the questions that I've received here in regards to high vibe nutrition, has to do with masculine and feminine energies, has to do with recognizing that some of the things that we have as attitudes or intentions might be too masculine in their nature. They're too directed, they're too performance oriented, or too competitive, or too forceful, all right? The feminine energies are typically, I'm referring to the inner energies that we all have. They are sort of more space giving. They're more flowy in their nature, but they can also be a little bit out there, okay, and not allow you to actually reach goals, okay? So we need both of this, and you need to keep an eye on that, whether it's your diet or your career or your relationships, that you keep this in balance. You can't just go from one goal to the next. That's too masculine, all right? But you can't just be up there and say, oh, I'm just going with the flow. No, I don't need this. I don't need anything. Yeah, you do. This isn't balanced, all right? But balance also comes in with our foods, for instance, in regards to some of the, of course, the micro and macronutrients that we talked about before, but also in regards to pH value. And this is a big thing here that many of us don't have on our radar, that based on the acidity level or the alkalinity level of your body, that whatever it is that you eat gets metabolized differently, okay? And you don't want, the ideal balance for the human bodies is obviously neutral, slightly alkaline. A lot of the problems, guys, that we have, a lot of the health problems have to do with over acidity. We're too acidic, and part of the reason is that most of the processed and packaged foods are extremely acidic. But also some of the lifestyle choices that we do, for instance, beer, alcohol, a lot of, is extremely acidic. Coffee can be acidic. There's differences in coffee. So if you drink coffee pure without anything in it, and if it's sort of pressed at a high temperature, it's actually not that acidic. But there's all these quality differences. Is why I try to spike your awareness a little more about this, okay? Don't be so rigid that this is bad and this is good. No, not necessarily. It depends on the quality, all right? When you are feeling that you're a little bit acidic, this is typically when your immune system goes down. That's when you get very, very susceptible for the germs and so forth that are flying around you. Okay, so what is the first thing you need to do besides sleep and hydration? You need to up your pH. You need to, resort to more alkaline foods. All right, this is very, very important that you help your system to optimize sort of what comes in. That's why it's not a matter of quantity. It's always a matter of quality. The next thing is your own differentiation, or your ability to differentiate. Okay, and here I want to point out something that many of you don't have on your radar, and that has to do with your neurotransmitters, and that has to do with conditioning. All right, so many kids are being conditioned to drink fluids, for instance, that contain carbohydrates, that have sugars in them. And I don't care if they're natural or not. This is messes with the neurotransmitters. All right, because when you hydrate, you should hydrate. Hydration, this comes from the Greek word of water. Okay, and your body doesn't want to have any carbs with it. Okay, your body doesn't want any foods with it. That's why I referred to milk earlier as food and not drink. Okay, anything that has carbs in it, even if it has artificial sweetness in it, I talked about this in part 1, is no longer a drink. Okay, it is not neutral for your body. It's something that your body needs to work with. But hydration, to keep the flow, needs to be neutral. All right, so this is very important that you understand how your neurotransmitters get messed up if you answer the craving for drink with food. Okay, because what will happen, and this is where a lot of people with weight issues actually run into this trap, that when you're thirsty, that you get the signal for hunger, and you're actually not hungry, you're actually thirsty. But every time you felt thirst, you answered it with something that has carbohydrates in it. You answered it with food, and therefore your body is now adjusting by asking for food. All right, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying here, but this is a really, really fundamental thing. And this conditioning also happens on other levels, happens on activity levels, and happens nowadays in our society in a mass level, and that is a continual impulses coming in from the outside. All right, and I don't want to talk about electronics right now, and the pastel colored buttons to press on. But there's something that I've mentioned in the article that goes with this talk, and that is the dopamine trap. How you guys are being conditioned, all right, to go for instant gratification, to go for very fast paced saturation cycles that leave you hanging, that leave you craving. This is what our industry has basically installed here in our society to make you good consumers, because you're constantly craving something. And that is not just because you actually need it, that is because your nervous system has been conditioned, okay, to needing something, thinking you need something. So my big tip here in regards to whether it be diet or activities is to ask yourself, what do I truly need? Do I truly need this right now? All right. Or is this just sort of a fast gratification that I want to get through something? All right. This is where then the coping cycle and the avoiding cycles come in. It's very, very big deal. The number 6 is the rhythm of things. Okay, again here, seasons and so forth play a role, but also your bio clock, guys. There are certain things that your body wants to do at certain times. I strongly, strongly recommend that you read up on this. I have an article that goes with this talk here where you can look this up. Okay. Like what I mentioned, your body wants to naturally detox in the mornings. All right, and it needs a lot of energy, it needs a lot of carbs during the day, like around noontime, if you have a normal sort of rhythm. Okay, those of you obviously who when you're jet lagged, all that gets messed up. Your bio clock gets messed up, and that's why we feel so shitty when we have jet lag, or when we don't sleep enough. At nights is when your body's most prepared to deal with heavy proteins, okay? And so in afternoons or evenings. So these are things that I recommend you when you want to develop a high vibrational nutrition for yourself, is that you really listen to your own bio clock, okay? What does your body feel like? Okay, for instance, I only eat fruits in the morning, and then as a second breakfast in the late morning, I eat oatmeal. Okay, oats have no gluten. They produce a very beautiful, balanced carbohydrates that release sugar slowly, that help your system to pace out, have a lot of calcium and so forth. All right, and then at noontime, I eat lots of salads, lots of carbs, lots of things that with bread and so forth. Yes, I like baking my own bread. I was raised in Germany with bread is a science there. So you find the right bread for the right time. Okay, and then in the afternoon, guys, at 4 o'clock, when I get dead tired, you know what I want? I want a beautiful piece of pastry or cake. That's how I started baking myself with my espresso and so forth, and this lifts my spirits. Okay, this helps me, all right, to get through the next 2-3 days. We usually have dinner a little later, and then at night I eat a heavy meal. All right, the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then I only drink teas after that. All right, to help my body to absorb all that and to. This is what works best for me, guys. All right, but what works best for you might be completely different. It depends on your lifestyle. It depends on what you need and what you want. All right. And number 7, obviously, quality, always quality in regards to people, in regards to thoughts, in regards to foods, obviously, as well. But in order to determine the quality, you have to look at the source. Okay, so again, here, apply this to everything. What's the source? Where do these foods come from? Who makes them? There are certain products I don't buy simply because they come from certain companies that I don't trust, all right? And so I just refuse to be a consumer. But there's also certain things that I refuse and certain things that I prefer, but I'm always in that sort of check with myself, all right? Is the source something that I can verify? All right, I want you guys to do this too. I don't want you to believe everything I say. I want you to verify everything I say. All right. Then number 8 is the ability to really be truthful with yourself, especially when it comes to some of the addictions, some of these dopamine, these gratification cycles and so forth. Okay. You can have the best diet in the world, but, use it the wrong time. And, again, here, this is so complex that you always need to make sure that you are in direct contact with yourself. All right, is this good for me right now? Is this what I need right now? If it's not and you still do it, then don't judge yourself, don't beat yourself up, then say to yourself, okay, obviously this wasn't what I needed. What can I eat or what can I do right now that can help me to better deal with this, that can support me? All right, those are things that up your vibes, that increase your radiance. And this requires you to be truthful with yourself, to become real with yourself. You can't, this is why diets don't work, because it gives you the idea that you're doing good. And most people's, following their diets is actually more harmful than good for them. Number 9 is context. Always illuminate the context. What am I, foods, obviously, what am I trying to accomplish with this here? But in form of information, thoughts, and so forth as well. What's the context here? The examples were, the calcium that we talked about earlier. Always make sure that your overall decision making stays in balance. This is the part where I remind people on 80-20. Okay, overall, it's good to follow something like an 80-20 rule. All right, you don't want to be too pure. You don't want to be too perfect. Why not? Remember the example with the immune system, because then you get shocked. Then your system isn't flexible enough anymore. Okay, so you want to be able. You always allow yourself 20% junk, guys. Okay, 20% junk is healthy. If the rest of your lifestyle, the rest 80% that you do every day, the rest of your routines are based on, what is best for you, okay? And then last but not least, look at everything that comes in, be it what other people say, be it what you watch on TV, be it what you look on here on Facebook, if this is actually supportive for you. Does this support me? Does this increase my energy? Does this help me? Does this heal me? Is this conducive? Yeah, whether it's a relationship or whatever it is, okay? And when it comes to information and learning and reading things up, make sure that you understand what it is that you're looking for. Are you looking for a remedy with your food? Are you looking for something that heals you? Are you looking for something that makes you strong? Are you looking for something that can up your performance. Okay, are you looking for something that makes you look good? All right, those are things that all have to do with, with your choices and how you build, your own rules of high vibratory nutrition, of high vibe nutrition and high vibe lifestyle. There are a few questions, I'm over time already, so I have to come to an end here. There are a few questions that I didn't answer today, and they had to do with high vibratory decisions based on relationships. And I want to go into this next Sunday. Our next Sunday Truth Talk will be about high vibe relationships. And yes, we're going to cover everything from twin soul to empath, narcissist, empath relationships, and so forth, the fantasy bond, everything that you would like to know about what a high vibe relationship is. But I want to remind you that these principles that I've illuminated with you, that they apply to everything really in your life. High vibe means, sort of living your life on the highest level of expression that you can. Okay, and that means that you have to come up with your own rules of engagement with yourself. All right, guys, thank you so much for all your questions. Thank you for coming. Thanks for all your hearts. I hope this was informative. I hope that you take, the things out here that you enjoy. All right, I have to go now, but share these videos. There's going to be an edited version and an article that goes with this. So sign up for my email list if you want to get notifications. And those of you who prefer YouTube, guys, you need to sign up for the YouTube channel. And push the follow button so that you get the notification for the YouTube lives. All right. Thank you, everybody. Love you guys. And see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.